Okay, I'm now going live. I see me. I'm there. Hey guys.
Turn my sound down.
I guess so. Otherwise people will get an echo from
Really
you.
get echoes.
That'd be really disconcerting, wouldn't it? Hi Nadja. How you doing today? She's our first person on as far as chat part goes. I don't know about the others, but it's Sunday. Yes. It is Sunday. Happy Sunday. Party. Trinity says hi. Siofra, hi Trinity. How are you doing? We have some positive news for Ian. We actually got his surgery approved and scheduled, so we're very happy about that. We just wish it was sooner. Jakey says hello. Hi, Jakey. Dan says hello, everyone. Hi, Dan. How are you doing today? We have the sun just broke through, so we've been having in and out little showers here and there with sun breaks in between. So yesterday we got some good rain that we definitely needed. It was all nice and wet when we got up this morning. So the earth is happy.
Since we got a roof fixed, yay.
Yes.
Otherwise I'd be groaning about the rain.
I know. So far everything is leak free, so we're very excited about that. So how are you all doing today? What kind of questions, what subjects do we want to talk about? I had someone did write in and ask me about some of the ways to contact the dead for Samhain. Trinity says, hi Dan, hi Ian. And the question was about writing messages to the dead. And the way I've always historically done that, if you have something that you really need to get across, like especially if you have regrets and weren't there, but anything at all, whatever it might be, to write it out in a letter and then read the letter out loud and then burn the letter to symbolically send the letter into the air to the other side and so forth, knowing that they'll get it. So it's pretty simple and basic. Some people like to do altars to their dead relatives or that kind of thing. So depending on your tradition and what's going on in your life depends on what you want to do for Samhain. I don't think I have any relatives on the other side that I'm interested in contacting.
No, it would be a good time to do that if anybody had any relics, like an urn or something that they owned or something like that to help get in touch with them.
Yeah.
Pocket watch, whatever it might be.
Nadja says, do you use Schumann K for frequency healing? Biotherapeutics use it and it helps a lot, so I recommend if you can find a medium who can teach. I've never heard of that particular technique before, and so
yeah, me neither.
I don't know anything about it, but I'm glad if that works. Biotherapeutics. I'll have to look that up maybe and see. But what is it for? You said it's for healing, but it's frequency healing. Is that for bodily healing or is that emotional healing or both? Trinity laughed at you.
What's that?
I said Trinity laughed at you.
Oh.
Or laughed at your misspelling of her name. Yes, it is a frequency that heals auras. Okay. There's a lot of research going on about sound healing and stuff like that. There's actually somebody in our community south of us who does singing bowls and actual song, voice singing inside of a sea cave, which I think sounds absolutely fabulous, and I wish I could go down there and get in a cave and listen to her. That'd be kind of neat. Crystala says, hello, you look so good, thank you. I wore my hair down today. Just felt like it.
Did it take much work to wear it down?
No, it didn't. I had to comb it, though. I mean, it was very naughty. It was naughty hair.
So you did have to wear it down.
Yes, Jonathan says hello. Hi, Jonathan. How are you doing down there? You getting ready to do, are you going to do a maypole kind of thing since you're coming up on that holiday in your area? Naja says, but it is a physical space in Earth atmosphere that science also confirmed. Okay, I believe you. I just don't know anything about it.
Yeah, well, Schumann resonance came up about 1952. I just looked it up real quick.
Ah,
It
okay.
is a thing.
Human resonance and...
I would have to read a whole article to see, but yeah, basically it's a frequency of resonance of the Earth predicted by Schumann in 52.
Ah, okay. So that's why Schumann is mentioned.
It is, yeah. There is some scientific basis to that aspect, yes.
There are so many things out there we could do.
Yes, there are.
We don't have enough time to do everything, though, so you pick and choose what works for you.
But I want to do everything.
That's why I keep coming back.
All during this lifetime. I don't want to have another lifetime. I had enough troubles this one.
It's just really difficult to get everything done.
Be advanced and not have to be reborn on Earth again.
Now, Naja says it's an informed energy which can heal aura and further body. A lot of cancer patients and other illnesses modern medicine can't help has been very effective. Good.
Basically,
Just popped that if you'd be interested in new techniques.
Yeah, they sell machines that put out this tone.
Ah, I have a client who might actually have one of those. She buys a lot of those machines. She calls it a chi machine, though, so it's probably a different kind of machine. But the same idea, it creates a tone and energy or whatever that's supposed to help heal her body. So yeah, there's a lot of different stuff out there. But thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, we're always interested in new techniques. At least I am, speaking for myself.
Sadenko Doman
I don't know how to pronounce that.
Ick is a person who's very skilled if you find his interviews. But the medium is a human, not a machine. Okay. Well, I guess we learned something new that we know nothing about. There's a lot of that stuff out there.
Years back, I used to be interested in all that stuff they called, I forget what they were calling it at the time, bionetics and that type of stuff is all the type of machinery and stuff for,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it was Dr. Hills or something, Research Institute anyway. They made a lot of interesting things that were supposed to boost your psychic powers or put somebody's picture in this and send them energy, that type of thing.
I found a pyramid at Goodwill that has a goddess symbol on it that opens up. It's a glass thing, and you can stick things in it, presumably to charge them up, I'm assuming. Jonathan says, no maypole unless it's just me circling the pole by myself. Well, that can happen. I'm thinking of starting an altar that changes for each Sabbath. Yeah, that could be fun. To have a space that you just transform depending on the time of year to sort of boost your own energy and your enthusiasm and your artistic, creative self and so forth gets
Looked like you
inspired.
kind of missed Shiloh's a little bit there.
I'm buying my first book about witchcraft. Which one?
That's quite a step to say making a start.
It is.
Start in this field.
Which one are you getting?
Maybe doesn't know yet. He or she. I don't know if Shiloh's a...
We can't always tell, and they may be the wrong pronouns. We never know. We're backwards that way, as far as our ability to tell through the internet sometimes what's going on. But you can let us know if you know what book you're going to buy. We'd be curious. Why not? If you feel like you want to share, but if not, that's fine. I had a guy I was living with when I first started reading The Spiral Dance that took my book and read it to make sure there was nothing dangerous in it that could cause me harm. And I was pretty annoyed at him for that. It was like, talk about passive aggressive annoyance. Yeah, Jonathan says he's going to get more in tune with the changing of the seasons. Yep, that's what it helps with for sure. But yeah, so especially when you're trying to form your own path, you don't need other people's input. He was a bit of a dweeb, of course, clearly. I'm not with him, I'm with Ian. So that says everything. As far as my opinion of him is concerned, at least he wasn't like nasty like some of the other people. Desiderotum says howdy. Hi, Desiderotum. How you doing? And we have one of my friends is having her birthday today, and I wasn't sure if she was going to join our live show today, but if you're there, hi and happy birthday to you. Since you took the day off, but you might be off doing other fun things. We had so much stuff going on in our last live show. There was questions coming like it was quite lively. Every show is different. That's one of the interesting things, though, about this is that this is your platform. It sort of becomes, our live show is about you and what you want to talk about and what your concerns are, and an opportunity to just ask whatever question is on your mind. That's one of the things I like about it. It's not like a scripted opportunity for me. So Jessica says, hi Siofra, I think this is the first time I've seen you wear your hair down. It's not common because a lot of times my hair bothers the back of my neck or I feel like it's in the way. But Crystala says, I am now attending elemental yoga classes and some things changed, and also ordered the book Spiral Dance by Starhawk. Thank you both for advice. You're welcome. Enjoy the book. Jonathan says, hi, Desiderotum. Ian says, Jonathan, that sounds like a good way to get in touch. I personally need to be more in harmony with the season, Sabbats, and moon phases. And there's so many different phases you can actually do that with. Living by the ocean, every so often I read tide charts to sort of get a feel for that automatic shift 4 times a day going from high to low tide, because it has its own kind of energy and stuff to it.
Yeah, I've been personally using the days of the week lately to try to get in touch with the planetary energies associated with those days. So
today would be a solar day.
Yeah.
Today would be a solar day.
Moon on moon.
Monday moon day.
Monday moon day, yeah, when I do my lunar talisman stuff and things like that.
It can add some passive energy to what you're doing.
Well, at least you start connecting it more yourself, Thursday is this, and Friday is this, as far as what the results connect to bring those planetary forces and things.
Yeah, your surgery is going to be on a Thursday, which I think is a good day.
Yeah,
because that's Jupiter.
Yeah.
Jupiter would definitely be a good influence for having things go well and getting a good result and such. Yeah. Nadja says, do you recommend divination with dice and what for? No, I've never used dice for divination, so...
I suppose you could, though.
You can use anything for divination. Yeah. You can just give it a system. You can decide, like, it does this, it means that. You sort of set out the ground rules first, like with a pendulum. And there's so many different forms of divination. I basically, at this point, just depend upon spirit to inform me about what things I might need to watch out for. And it's funny, like when I go to my office in the morning, the universe will let me know what sort of drivers I'm going to encounter, usually before I get to my first traffic light. So if I'm going to encounter really frustrated people who are in a hurry, they'll happen like right then. And then the rest of the trip, that's what I get. Or people who are just going to like randomly pull in front of me for no reason and not wait till it's their turn, then that's what I get. So
I guess it all
kind of interesting.
Depends on what you're divining for too, because some particular types of things lean themselves more specifically towards the tarot, or towards the I Ching. And it kind of depends on the spirit of what you're divining and how you're working.
So Desiderotum apparently is reading both Subtle Spirits and Subtle Energy books by Keith Miller. They're really fantastic. Good. Cool. Thank you for the recommendation. Jonathan says, I found a holy stone in a stream this week. Already tried looking through the hole at dust to see Faye. No luck yet. I'll let you know when it works. Well, that is one of the stories about the holy stones.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I've seen that, or hag stones, depending on, where you are. But yeah, looking through the hole, it's kind of like a window to another world.
Right.
It's sort of like looking through a mirror or a window.
Using a shell to listen to Yamiya.
Yeah, Violet says, hi, Violet. Jessica says, I've been having a funny sort of day that way too. Every time I've tried to water my plants, and I have a lot of them, the water has somehow missed, no matter how closely I hold it to the plant. Okay then. Apparently water is being non-cooperative.
Repelling energy.
Philippa says, hello all, love your top and hair. Thank you. This is actually a shirt that it says, live by the sun and feel by the moon. That's what it says. And one of our coven mates at the time came over to our house for a gathering, and she was wearing this shirt. And I said, oh, I really like that shirt. So she took it off and gave it to me. She was wearing something under it, but I was kind of surprised, and I just thought, I haven't worn that in a long time, so maybe I'll wear it. So I did. I took it out and started wearing it. Canary says, hello everyone. These streams seem to be coming around quicker and quicker.
Yeah, it feels that way from our point of view too sometimes, especially when we have to deal with things like getting the roof repaired in between.
Well, as we age, things go faster and faster, and it's true. It's a weird perception of time and how it works. It's like, I'm like, it's October? When did that happen? Desideratum said that, Jonathan, you might want to charge your hagstone first. Not a bad idea. I have a hagstone on my staff that was picked up on a beach by a friend of mine when she was visiting Mexico on a trip, and she brought it back. It's granite, actually, so it's unusual in that regard. A lot of hagstones you find like at the beach or sandstone, and they're easily broken, so if you have a good solid one, it's going to last.
Hagstone.
That's the holy stone, the stone with a hole.
Okay.
I don't know why they started calling it a hagstone, but
Not as long as I know.
some people actually make necklaces and things out of them. Jonathan said, I read a bit about indigenous spirit beings here in South Africa. Most are monsters called ogres, scary descriptions, no stories about fae like elves. There are a lot of monster stories around the world. The local lore around here is full of them. And I think it's like, to keep people safe. Stay away from the lake. There's a monster in the lake. It's going to drag you down and drown you. Probably kept children from drowning, because they were afraid of the monster in the lake. Not afraid of the water, like they should have been. So Philippa says, near enough every time I go out, I find a holy hagstone. I used to pick them up and bring them home, but I've decided to start leaving them put now, otherwise there will be none left. Yeah. Some people just have good luck finding them, so I think it's considered good luck if you find one, so your luck continues to be good whether you pick them up or not. Sort of like a four-leaf clover. They're not all that common. I love finding smooth stones either from the ocean or from a riverbank.
Yeah.
There's just something about the water having worked on that thing so long that it's taken all the rough edges out of it that gives it a certain feel to it that it doesn't quite have, like if it's artificially rounded, like the stones that I buy at a rock show or something like that. So Deseratum says, Nadja, there are books on dice and domino divination that are pretty complex systems, not just numerology, popular in New Orleans. All right. Nadja says, have you worked with any Norse gods, and what was it like? Well, Thor has a thing for me, so yeah, and it's nerve-wracking because I've been hit by lightning, and I've had lightning hit near me many, many times throughout my life. So if I'm with people in a thunderstorm, I tend to try and stay away from people just in case I get hit by lightning again. I don't want to put anyone else at risk.
Just always wear a rubber suit before you go out.
Yeah, right. Jessica says, I've got a hagstone too, but just the one, and I genuinely have no idea where it came from or who found it. It just showed up one day, and I've kept it since. Awesome. Nothing like a magic stone that appears out of nowhere. Those are really good. Jessica says, weird that they're being mentioned now. I just bumped into it when cleaning off the top of the dresser yesterday. Well, cool. Synchronicities. We love them. Nadja says, thank you, Desiderata. Any recommendations? And Jonathan says, Holy Stone, Hagstone, which is eyeglass, adder stone. Apparently druids love them. Mine is a softer stone like sandstone. Still awesome because apparently you have to find it yourself. Cool. Desideratum says, I'd love a meteorite hagstone. Curious what kind of things I'd see. That would be hard to find because meteorite rock is extremely hard and dense.
Find one that had a natural hole.
That had a natural hole in it would be something else, yeah.
Of course, I know that little chunk I've got is like pretty solid.
Yeah, I have several pieces of meteorite, and they're definitely solid. And they're hard like rock and kind of heavy for their size, so probably a fair amount of iron content, I'd assume. I would wonder what kind of things you would see through a hagstone that was made from a meteorite. Nadja Desiderata says, can't specifically recommend any, but I found mine on Amazon. So that would be the book on dice and divination, I'm assuming. Canary says, I'm a bit confused on the rules of hagstones. I thought it had to be a pebble on the beach with a small natural hole in it. Now I'm confused. Well, it can be on the beach or it can be in the river. And it is a natural hole. That's the idea. So I don't know what you're confused about. Kayla says, my snowflake obsidian is missing, so I asked for it back. A day or two later, I found a smooth black stone out back on my path. It's the same shape. Not sure what it is. Ha! All right, then. Taylor says, hello, everyone. Hi, Taylor. Yeah, so, they're trying to find it for you, I guess. And they're like, well, we're not sure what it is, but is it this? So you can take it and say, thank you very much, and can you find another one that looks kind of like this but has little white dots on it? I don't know. Help me, please, find my stone. It sometimes works. It just all depends. If it happens in front of me, I usually, give them a stern talking to and say, I'm leaving the room now, and when I come back, it better be exactly where I left it. And then I leave the room and come back, and almost always it's right there where I thought it should be in the first place.
Well, with me, I get a version of mental blindness, so I can look right at things and not see them. So I figure it's usually probably me.
Sometimes that's the case. We all have a blind spot right in front of our face.
Yeah, but
and everyone's blind spot is a slightly different location.
Mine is psychological, because I can be blind for things that are way too big to just be in my blind spot.
Well, that can be a true thing as well. So Philippa says, I found my first holy stone many years ago sitting in a car park and thinking to myself that it would be cool to find one, and there it was. Right at my feet, but not in a river. And, they had to have had water on them to form them, so maybe they came from a river and then were displaced, or someone just magicked them there so you could find it. Does a hagstone have to be found in water then? I don't think so. Nadja says there are a lot of warnings about the internet about mushroom fairy rings. Are they really dangerous, and what can one do if they step into one by accident? Mushroom fairy rings are formed by a very specific type of mushrooms, and it's a completely and totally natural phenomenon and has actually nothing to do with fairies.
That's just the way those type of mushrooms grow.
That's just the way they grow. Kind of like, some trees will grow in a circle, in a grove. Like, I think redwood will sometimes do that. We'll do it out. And it's the people, when they saw it, they didn't understand that it was just a specific mushroom that did it, and it was in a circle. They thought it was weird, and they were afraid of witches and circles and fairies, and so they decided it was a bad thing. So I don't think you have to do anything if you step in the middle of a fairy circle, but that's me.
Right. No, I agree, though. The mushroom ones are just the fact of plant growth that people didn't understand. I don't think there's any reality to being worried about them at all.
Except the collective unconscious fear that has been promoted because of that. So I mean, whenever you're, when you're following this path and you're doing shadow work and so forth, finding those things are important to look at them, evaluate them, decide whether or not they're valid for you, keep them if they are, dismiss them if they're not, and work your way through it. And the fairy ring is one of those. Also, I must have my cards given to me because if someone doesn't give them to me, they won't work is also not true. That's because in the old days they had to draw them. So someone had to make you your cards.
And then when they gave them to you, you'd be getting that person's energy who presumably knew all about tarot and had that connection where they could make that work. So,
and it was a secret and sacred thing.
Yeah.
Not like you could just go buy them in a store or something like that. So you can buy your own deck too. So there's a lot of that kind of superstitious witch stuff out there that doesn't really matter now or doesn't apply now, I guess.
I would say that's one of those, though. There is an aspect to that, though, that using a piece of equipment or a tool like a tarot deck from somebody who really knew what they were doing can give you some extra oomph in your operations.
Well, yeah, you can get an unconscious connection with their energy and their understanding.
Yeah, and it's amazing how much of a difference that can make. I mean, a person can really pull in, if somebody knew what they're doing, you have the right deck or something, they can really pull it in and grow from somebody else's abilities.
So Canary says that Kayla, someone must have took the snow out. Well, that would be out of the obsidian. Kayla said, I rearranged my whole room, so it's definitely gone now. I did thank them. It's not necessarily gone because I lost some keys that I was sure were in my coat pocket, and 3 months later I put my hand in my pocket and my keys were there. And I put my hand in my pocket every single day. And then one day my keys were there. So, yeah, it can still come back. Canary says, if I seen a mushroom fairy ring, I would step inside it. I'm too curious for my own good.
Well, that's me.
I would probably do that too.
I go boldly where no one with common sense should go sometimes.
Kayla laughed, and Canary says, oh, that's disappointing about finding out that they're not actually done by fairies. Jonathan says, since we're talking about finding stones, clear and milky quartz is everywhere in South Africa, but what I find is not good quality. Does that matter? I don't think so.
I'd say not so much in general.
It's the energy of the stone itself that matters. If you're using it for scrying and you want to look into it, then the clearer the quartz, the easier that might be. But most of the time, I mean, you can do scrying with your eyes closed and not be looking at it and just connect to the energy.
Keep in mind that the quality of the quartz is a human judgment on what's going to bring the most money. That's referred to, and has nothing to do with the energy. And I'm using a small quartz river stone myself that I picked up years and years ago. And it's nothing fancy, but it's absolutely great for its purpose. So yeah, watch out for the quality thing is more a human rating of things in general like that.
So Nadja says, I thought so because it's logical that they go around if you know a bit biology. Adam says, what are all the factors affecting manifestation of a ritual that you consider most significant? Your energy and your heart. It's not about the specifics of the ritual that you're doing. It's not about the knowledge base that you have. It's about your ability and willingness to be open to allowing manifestation to take place. And most of the time, we are our own worst enemies when it comes to that, and we get in our own way. Knowledge will only get you so far, and it will break down completely, and you'll never get anywhere.
Yeah, I agree completely.
You really 100%. Need to focus on the feeling of something, not on the specifics. In an emergency, I can do something just by saying a word out loud.
You need both, but to really have some oomph to it, you want to get that feeling in there for sure.
Well, the knowledge is an assistant.
Yeah.
Because if you don't understand either what you want or how things work, then it's much more difficult for you to create a ritual around that. But the heart is the leader of your development and everything, really. It's the feeling, the intuition, and so forth that is the thing that pulls it all together and being in touch with your feelings and who you are and what's going on around you and who
And
other people are.
At some point, spirituality transcends thought. So, yeah, if you had it all based on mental conceptions, then that's going to lead to an eventual
Dissolution.
Yeah, I was going to say like a crisis, like crossing the abyss or something.
A breakdown in the entire system.
Yeah.
A crisis of faith or conscience or belief or whatever. Logic never actually ends well if rationality is the only thing you're following.
Yeah.
Because I've seen people do that and they can drive themselves crazy. So Desideron says, oh wait, Canary says some of it is literally people trying to scare people off.
Yeah, on the fairy ring.
On the fairy ring. Desideron says that Canary probably best to ask permission from the Fae before you crash their party. Philippa says, I seem to be collecting cards. I wish someone would buy cards for me. It would save me some money. Yeah, it's true. They're not cheap, are they? Jonathan said, I found 2 giant fairy circles just when I got into this bath. I was so excited. I went and put ramekins of milk just outside the circle as a friendship offering. Well, I'm sure that they appreciated that. Whether they're biological fairy rings and not actual fairies making them or not, I'm sure the fairies would notice. Canary says it does a Desideron. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. I'd still do it. Is there no way I could be able to help myself?
Well, making friends with the environment is always a good thing, and if you want to look at it that way, you can look at it like every thing in our environment has a being or a spirit associated with it, and if you appreciate that thing, like say blackberries for the berries and things, then that spirit being associated with that will be friendlier towards you. So in general, it's always kind of a good thing, and you can get results just from being friendly with nature. It'll be friendly back.
So Philippa says, we get lots of mushroom rings and I've stepped into plenty and I'm still here. Good. Jonathan says, nope, crystal scrying is above my pay grade. I've had almost no scrying success, so I've decided to go back to basics and look for images in clouds. Thanks for the court's advice. You're welcome. Desideron says, I would not step into a mushroom fairy ring in Ireland without asking first. Canary says, that's sensible. Naja says, if you two are comfortable sharing, I'm curious to know what type of the entities were the hardest to cleanse, banish, ward off of you. Actually, I don't think I've ever had trouble except when I was a child, when I was a teenager, and I had that experience with the black thing in my room that tried to take over my body. But even in that, I didn't have any trouble getting rid of it because I knew that I could. So if I don't want something around me, it doesn't stick around. And
well, my thought is that with me, it was more my own thought forms and things that gave me the hardest time, and that's because the way they're formed, they're usually something, well, they can be something you're excitable about, and then they go to keep trying to reinforce that, so they can be really hard to fight off. Harder to fight off than an external entity that you realize is, because these thought forms have maybe been part of yourself for years and years.
Yeah, that would be the main thing. So Taylor says, would you have any thoughts of logic being distracting and how to let yourself not worry about it? So, okay, that's something a lot of people have difficulty with. I mean, not just logic, but worry in particular. And so when I was in Santa Cruz, and I was like, I just left an abusive person, I was in a new house, I was worried about job, money, everything, trying to keep everybody alive and together, etc. And so I bought some little worry dolls from a local store. And the way worry dolls work is just really cool. You take out a little doll, and they're little stick figures with yarn on them for clothing and stuff, and you give them each something to worry about while you're sleeping. So I was able to sleep a lot better. So every night it was like, this would worry about money, and this one would worry about, whatever it was. And everybody would have their job, and I'd put them under my pillow, and then I'd go to sleep. So you can do that kind of thing. As far as logic, it's like teaching yourself how to meditate and let go of
Exactly.
of that is going to be your best way to cure yourself of having logic ruin stuff?
Yeah, if you really want to, my opinion is the best perspective is to get to the point where you can sit quietly without having any thoughts. And then you'll find another world opens up to you that you normally don't perceive because all your energies are taking up and having these thoughts. And then when you realize that there's so much there that's beyond and transcending the thoughts that you can't reach at all without transcending those thoughts, that really helps a lot. Then you realize that logic only goes so far, and it doesn't apply to a lot of the spiritual experiences we might have. I'm feeling a little bit more talkative than usual, apparently.
Well, apparently that's good because you weren't earlier. So Canary says that Jono, or Jono, I forgot how to say it again. Jonathan, I'm going to just call you Jonathan. I got scrying mirrors, crystal balls, but I tried with my mirror in my bedroom, and to my shock, success. Green Woman says, if you would care to share, how did you and Ian meet? Okay, so we met at a pagan dessert potluck. That's actually the first time we met. And I had to walk there because my, at the time, husband had just left me, abandoned me, took the car, went down to California, called me on the phone and said he wasn't coming back because if he came back he'd have to kill himself.
After she sold a bunch of her book collection to get money for him to go down there, mind you.
And did a job for Valentine's Day week helping people get flowers to people. It was, but anyway, so I was at the point where I was ready to go out and just sort of meet people, and it was a local pagan group. And I saw the ad, probably at the health food store. That's where I often see those kind of ads. And so I went to the dessert potluck. And me and desserts, well, let's just say chocolate cake and I is like other people taking a fifth of alcohol. I get very kind of high off of cake. And so when Ian first came there, he heard I was going to be there because I'd met some other, the people before, and he thought from my name I was going to be an airy, fairy, new age, woo-woo person.
Well, that's in my own defense from meeting other people just like that who actually had the first name of Fawn.
Yeah. So I met him there, and I liked him right off the bat, and I am good at meeting new people, and I listen to what people have to say. I'm genuinely interested in their stories. I had him talking like a crazy person. He was telling me all sorts of stuff, and his friends were shocked because they'd never heard him talk before, because no one had ever thought to ask him his opinion on anything, and his philosophy was basically, if they don't want my opinion, then I see no reason to give it to them. If they want it, they'll ask, and they didn't. So that was our first meeting.
Well, everybody's tied up with their own thing, yeah, so I didn't.
But the first time we connected, really, because he was engaged at the time to some crazy woman who was a Mormon who broke up with him quickly after he and I met. And we went on our first date, and we didn't know we were going out with each other. So we ended up coming home together, and then he stayed and never left. So
pretty much, yeah.
I kind of really liked his energy. It was his heart center, actually, that was my first thing that was seriously attractive to me about him. And he'd been doing some work on his heart centers at the time.
Yeah.
So that was interesting that turned out to be the thing.
Well, yeah, and you picked up on a lot of stuff. You're definitely the most accurate clairvoyant, the only accurate clairvoyant I've ever ran into as far as that goes so far, except for that one woman.
Right.
That told me I was going to meet you.
Yeah, she said you were going to meet me, and you went, eh. Turned out she was right, too.
Yeah, it was like a week or 2 weeks after that. It wasn't very long.
Yeah, so we've been together since 1991. That's when we met. I met him before Beltane, but we didn't go out until the 5th of July. So we'd known each other for a bit before we ended up on that date that we thought were with other people that turned out to be with each other. So that was fun. So Nadja says, I have those dolls as well, but how do I unworry them so they don't get too many wrinkles? It's their job to worry. You don't have to worry about that. I do cleanse, recharge them. Do I cleanse, recharge them like crystals? I never did, because that's their purpose. Their entire purpose is to worry for you. So I see no reason to need to uncharge their worry and recharge them. It seems like a lot of work, but if you feel you need to, then nothing wrong with it either. And Desert says mushrooms are supposedly a very wise hive mind type life form. They were here way before we were. Yes, they were.
Heard that, yeah.
And we're what, 80% mushroom? At least 50% our DNA is mushroom.
Well, I can't remember all how of those things, how far we are away from a banana, and they're always coming up with some.
Yeah, we have a lot of things in common with the banana, too. Bananas and mushrooms. Sounds like a nice lunch. So, Canary says, I bet the real mushroom fairy connection is the magic mushrooms. Well, I'm sure there's fairies associated with all of the mushrooms. Jonathan says, in the Gita, there are 3 paths to the divine. Karma, doing what you know you're supposed to do. Bhakti, love, compassion. And is that Nana?
Yeah, jnana.
Jnana, knowledge, logic, understanding. Jnana has the most danger of insanity. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Canary says, I haven't been seeing things still since I moved. I made lots of crystal grids on the floor and used symbols to try and create an interesting energy, but I'm still not getting that much. Any tips? Bake. Fill your house with fun smells. Dance. Play music. Ring bells. Let everybody local know that you're interested in having a chat, if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, when we moved in here, and mind you, it's been a long time ago we moved in here, but all the spirits around this place had to get used to us being here, and they kind of threw a little mini fit when they saw us first doing magical stuff, and they kind of had to get used to us, and I always feel that acclimatization to a new place that takes several weeks for all the invisible entities around to get used to me and for me to get used to them.
Offerings are not a bad idea, too. You can always make offerings to local spirits and talk to your house as if it's alive. That can help bring it about, kind of thing. Jonathan says, Canary, awesome. By the way, glad you're here. What was your scrying like? Seeing visions or interpreting visual shadows and reflections? Canary says, my face changed. Ah, yes. That's what mine does, too. Jonathan says, cool, thanks. Canary says, at Jonathan, I am used to seeing things. I literally hate the still energy I am trying to get rid of. I don't feel like I'm in my element. Brandon B says, how can you tell if your pet, cat, dog, or bird is familiar? It'll act differently than a normal pet will act. It will want to participate in your rituals. It will intervene and intercede on your behalf. Sometimes a familiar will get sick to protect you. We've had that happen.
Well, that happened with Jasmine, and she wasn't even a familiar. She was our kitty cat, and
I think she was more of a familiar than for you than most cats.
We were close.
Yeah. I just says, how do you know what local spirits would like for an offering? Well, get an idea of where you're at. I mean, spirits will pay attention to whatever you're doing and the attitude you have when you do it. So the offering itself is not as important as the attitude that you bring to the act of giving an offering. So whether it's a pretty rock that you like, whether it's putting a plant somewhere in your garden for magical purposes. I have like rosemary, lavender, and sage in my garden. And, I consider them magical plants. I made my formulas out of them when I did the alcohol spray, the scented sprays. And so, something that connects you directly to the land and to the area is generally a good way to connect you to the energy of whatever happens to be there.
But I wanted to add something we learned when we were up at our cabin, and that's that I got told by the spirits when I was asking them to stop giving them tobacco as an offering because I was taking the Native American approach to it. And they said, we don't, us humans,
Siofra,
the two of us, yes.
The two of us.
Don't use tobacco. So we had no appreciation, so it meant nothing to us when we gave it to them, so they didn't want it. They preferred something that would mean something to us that we use in our practice. So sage or something like that would be fine. And then in that one case, that was very specifically was the idea of the energy that we were giving them with the wish to give them something that was more valuable than what exactly the thing was.
Yeah, so we started using sage from our own garden for that.
Yeah.
And we actually had some sage we collected from the deserts around Mount Shasta one year.
Yeah, it lasted us for several years.
It lasted us
All
for quite a
gone now.
while. Yep. And we went out and wildcrafted and collected it with offerings to the plants for that. So Jonathan says, Nadja, I think they all like rice, milk, honey, and shiny things. That sounds about right. Fairies definitely like the milk and honey and rice kind of stuff. Seems universal. Canary says, my kitten seems stupid after having a familiar. He would follow me to school, and his growl at certain people I knew who to stay away from based on him. He would also attack certain people who would come in to the house, and all turned out to be no good. Yeah.
Interesting.
And
Cats can be very sensitive.
right, and sometimes local spirits can be very helpful. When we had a crazy person stay at our house, which we didn't know was a crazy person until he was in our house, the land guardian that I had assisted, that lives or inhabits land not right where I live, but like about a mile or so away, came into my house. And I didn't understand at the time why. Because, I mean, land guardians are big. They're as big as my house. And all of a sudden, the whole house was just filled with this energy. And the guy that was there was kind of freaking out about it. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. This is a land guardian. He doesn't, there's no danger from a land guardian. That's just sort of who they are. And then later, when we discovered how unstable the person was, I realized that it was trying to do me a favor and let me know that something was wrong. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting. Jessica says, how do you clean up your offerings after the fact? I live in an apartment, and things can't sit out for long here without being noticed. Well, if you can take them outside, like into a wooded section, if there's like
Yeah, it depends. If
trees
it's like,
or bushes or anything outside of your apartment complex, if it's food-like stuff, it'll get taken care of by wild animals after the
animals,
yeah, after the spirits have had their part. And that's actually one of the ways of thinking in a lot of cultures is like they'll put food out on an altar for their household deity, and then maybe for some other gods and goddesses that they're working with. And after a period of time, they take the food off the altar and then they eat it. Because the assumption is what the spirits take isn't the actual food, it's the energy that they put into the food. And then, why waste good food? And if it's a stone or something like that, you can put it under the ground a little bit, and cover it up so people can't see it. I'm thinking, if it's in your apartment,
if you're really stuck in like middle of a big city or something, you could always just put it like in a potted plant on the earth to get it an earth connection.
yeah.
So you can use a house plant or something if you absolutely have to. Of course, anything like that would be better buried in the ground, but there's a connection between all the earth elements, so that is acceptable, I think.
So Desideradum says that Nadja, a safe bet for spirit offerings or grains like bread, sweetbreads, or strong alcohol like Cointreau that smells good. Canary says, I've never come across any being that actually gave a monkey about any offerings or me giving them any. And so that's just going to really depend upon your practice and how you choose to do it.
Yeah, and these things can turn out to be, if a person is sensitive, these things can become very individual, because you may get some instructions that will suit you and nobody else as far as how to react to them. And again, it's not like so much of a general thing. It would almost be like two people reacting. You have to learn that Ben likes or doesn't like this, or whatever. You'd have to learn about a friend, and they may have individual idiosyncrasies.
Right, local to the, just specific to them even.
Yeah.
Who knows? But yeah, that's one of those reasons why intuition is so important, and being able to feel the energy that's coming through when you do it, whether it's a like or a dislike, an encouragement or a back off, this isn't right for me kind of thing.
And for Canary's comment there about beings not caring, I've never had one seek me out for an offering. I would get suspicious at that point. But it's a gesture of friendship which they are likely to respond to.
Like again, I think it's just the energy, the fact that you're reaching out and putting something into an effort to make a contact.
Yes, exactly.
Is what offerings are for.
Yeah.
Usually, it's not to placate the spirit so that they leave you alone and don't murder you in your sleep. You know, at least not the ones I can consort with. So Jonathan says Cointreau is. Whoops, I lost it. There we are. Yep, I lost it again. I went the wrong way. Cointreau is my favorite liqueur. Maybe I'm a spirit and I don't realize it. Have any of you ever seen me? Well, I can't say I have. So it could be you might not exist, except on a computer console. Brenna says, what are your rituals for October and November? Well, things to do with inner workings, the dead, the passing of things, the death of large things. For me, one of the things I always do this time of year is read the roll call of the martyrs, is what it's called, or at least have it posted somewhere for all the people that were murdered and either burned or hung for supposedly being witches. Whether they were or not, I think is irrelevant. I consider them my actual ancestors because they died for the crime of being what I am. And even if they weren't. So it really depends upon you and what you're interested in doing. It's the beginning of serious shadow work up in the northern hemisphere between Samhain and winter solstice. Down south, it's going to be between their version of Beltane and summer solstice. So it's more of an outgoing, expressive, joy kind of energy. So it depends on where you live and what you're working through and where you are in your own path. The ritual I designed for our group when we had one was a descent into the underworld, to go down and speak to the dead and meet our own fears and do more of that kind of work and then come back safely. So Jessica says, I'm in one of the two biggest cities in my country, but there is a ravine not far from me, a few small parks between here and there. Maybe I can find a nice spot to set things. Sounds like an idea.
Yeah, I guess the thing to remember, if it's a short-term offering like food, once you're sure they've done with it, you can just dispose of it anyway. Put it in the garbage can if you need to. Just make sure that they're done with it first before you do that. Or eat it yourself or whatever. But basically disposing of them is not a problem as long as they're, have no connection to it anymore. They're done with it.
So Taylor says, thank you for the help with logic. I had to do something else for a second. Glad I can pause. I'm glad to see you're back. Desert says that Jessica, I put offerings in a pretty covered dish in a corner of my living room. I take it to the crossroads around 3 a.m. Sounds like she doesn't have a crossroads, and not being in a major city, but that'd be nice if you had a crossroads to go to. Jessica says, I also leave out a pot of water on my balcony for the garden and sky spirits, and also my pigeon pair to enjoy. So far, no complaints from my neighbor, even though she's afraid of birds. Oh, I'm so sorry for your neighbor. What a terrible thing to be afraid of birds. They're everywhere, and they're constantly flying around.
We like birds.
We like birds.
We have a big flock of blackbirds that like to attack our feeder every now and then. They come in and just mob things.
The red-winged blackbirds are really good at emptying the bird feeder within about 2 days.
Boy, they make the most beautiful sounds, though.
Yes, they're a nice songbird. Melissa says, hello. Hi, Melissa. Jonathan says, do you guys ever do any divination with tools like scrying anymore? Well, actually, I was thinking of doing some of that the other night, looking at my crystal ball that I have next to my bed, but I don't really do much need. I don't have much of a need to look into the future to see what's coming. I kind of like know what's coming. And scrying is for giving you fair warning.
Well, that's one of the reasons.
One of the reasons.
Yeah.
Unless I'm trying to scry someone else, but
I'll use a scrying mirror in Barden type of fashion.
Learning how to see the right colors when you want them to be there and stuff like that.
And not, but I mean, I generally do some scrying using one of those mirrors as a tool, but I'm using Barden specific methods and things. So more to look at things from the Akashias, as a mirror to the universe, so to speak.
Okay, so Jonathan says, thanks, Desideratum. Canary says, I did once try a wine offering. I didn't get any response, so I just drunk the wine. I normally get less response if I try to use an offering. Desideratum says, I asked the spirit of a neighborhood what would be an appropriate offering, and within a day had a picture of an apple pie blow onto my doorstep.
Well, cool.
Well, I'd say that's a definite response. It's like, yep, that sounds perfect.
Here's your apple pie. You take your part. Hurry up. I'm going to eat the rest. I think I'll do that next time we buy an apple pie.
You'll put it outside for the spirits, but keep
part.
It covered up.
Yep.
So the bugs and the animals
now
don't get in it.
Now it's going to be grounded out. Grounded out by eating it.
That's
a good
right.
way to ground out a spell.
That's true. Eat it. Eat your spell. That grounds it out. Unless it's a different kind of spell, but yes. Okay.
So yeah, Jessica. I do that and a little bit of pendulum occasionally. Sorry. Go on to the next.
All right. So Canary says, someone thinks I am coming into their house on the astral plane and peeking in on her. I'm not, but I can't convince her it's not me. Well, I mean, it's true. How can you prove it's not you, right? I mean, the only way you could prove it wasn't you is to go there and see something and then tell her you could see something then, because then it was you, but you weren't there before, but then they wouldn't believe that either. I think that would...
If they think it's you and it's not, there's something about the clairvoyance isn't working real well there.
Not on their part.
Yeah.
I mean, when I've had intruders in my space, it's always very clear who they are. When we went to take the classes from the Wicca High Priestess north of us, her opinion is if she ever teaches you anything, then she has a right to spy on you for all time and decide whether or not you're using what she gave you for good, and if not, she's going to take care of you. And considering the fact that I already was a practitioner and she didn't actually teach me anything I didn't already know, we were just trying to get to know her and her group. When we left and decided that was the end of it, I kicked her out of both the astral, mental, Akasha, and dream planes. She kept trying for a while, and every time she did, I caught her, and then I would just go like, this is no longer allowed, so get the heck out.
A lot of that stuff, if people are like me and they don't have fully developed clairvoyance, but it's only partially working, can easily be a little bit mistaken. I kind of lost my point. So
you can project stuff that's not there.
Yes,
your own fears and anxiety. It could be that this person is afraid of you on some level, and this is how her fear is manifesting, is thinking you're doing something you're not.
That was basically it. Was she might be seeing what she's projecting herself without realizing it.
And it can be very difficult for people to figure that stuff out. Projecting is such a huge problem. Becoming clear is a process, takes a long time, and no matter how far along the path you are, it's always good to check in with yourself to make sure that you're not doing it. So, you do what you can. So Jessica says, ooh, watch out for the red-winged blackbirds in spring. We have a few that nest in the shrubs here, and we've been being dive-bombed on our way to the bus. I love them all the same. Beautiful singers and passionate parents.
Oh yeah, they get up and just a whole ton of them in the tree right outside our house and start chirping.
Jonathan says at Canary, I'm also not convinced it's not you. Kayla says, my neighbor has at least 20 bird feeders. I love all the birds. Once a hummingbird flew up to my window and stared for a second. It was cool. Yeah, those are awesome. And so we had to stop our van because it overheated when we were on a trip. And so we had the doors opened, and I was sitting in the van, and a hummingbird came flying in and just stared at my face for a minute or so and then flew back out. That was cool. They're so fast.
I'm not sure if that was the same time that you terrorized the squirrel or not.
It might have been the same trip, yeah. I accidentally frightened a squirrel to within an inch of his existence, apparently. I've never seen a face like that before. We were staying at that cabin where the power spot is, and and I saw him run in. They were running up and down the trail all the time, and I saw him run into the cabin. And so I didn't want to walk in the cabin because I thought that would startle him, and who knows where he would go. And so I came around the side, and I was looking through the window to try and see where he was. At that exact moment, his face popped up right in front of me, and his face just went, "Wah!"
And the squirrel screamed.
And he screamed, and then he ran out of the cabin and went hightailing it down the trail.
Stayed on the trail as far as you could see him and just kept
and
on
we
going.
we didn't see another squirrel there. He told all of his friends about the terrifying visage that he had witnessed in the giant window. Yeah, that was, I felt bad, but I wasn't trying.
It was hysterically funny.
It was hysterically funny. Anyway, and Canary says, "How could you not believe me?" So Taylor says, when I was younger, I was told that animals were simple, mindless creatures. Now, spending time in nature, I can see how thoughtful they are. Any thoughts on this? Well, they have feelings and intelligence and communication, and they do jobs. They have their own jobs to do. They have families. They have connections.
Yeah, they all have their own language, so if you have cats or anything else, you've got to learn how to speak their language to get along with them. You know, like don't stare directly at a cat.
Yeah, because that's
unless you want it
rude.
to run away.
That's right. If you want a cat to sit on your lap, don't look at it, which is why people who are allergic to cats get cats on their lap all the time. Because humans look at things that they want and don't look at things that they don't want. And so a person who's allergic to a cat will avoid looking at the cat.
And the cat will find that friendly and not a threat, and since you're non-threatening, will come up and jump on your lap.
It sees it as an invitation, and it's really hysterically funny. So yeah, every animal has got its own set of signals, and they're not all human, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So...
And people don't necessarily know all the best.
So Jessica says that, Kayla, that's so wonderful. I can't wait to have a yard and a garden. I'll be putting up bird feeders and hopefully hummingbird feeders too. They are so lovely. Canary says, oh dear, I know someone like that who won't talk to me, and I keep blocking her from my planes and she won't bugger off. She thinks I'm young, so I'm not any good. I looked right at her. And I was like, hey, you called her by name and called her a weirdo. She strayed away for a little bit then. Jonathan says, many amazing synchronicities and fun, weird events being shared here on this chill stream tonight. I'm really enjoying it. Good. I'm so glad. Kayla says, wow, that's awesome. Canary says, I'm doing a past life regression tomorrow. Okay, good.
Cool.
And be careful. Stay sane.
Well, anymore, that seems like something I ought to be saying to people regularly.
Is stay sane?
Goodbye. It's like, stay sane.
Stay
like
safe
the world
and
is
stay
going
sane.
So crazy.
That's right.
Yeah.
So Kayla says, same here at Jessica. Jonathan says, good luck, Canary. Yeah, let us know how it goes. Joey says, cats like it if you slow blink at them. I love cats and they tend to love me. Yes, the slow blink is a kiss in cat language. And that's how you can tell if a cat is into you or not, if you slowly blink at them and then they blink back and then you're like, ah, I made a new friend. So Canary says that, Jonathan, there must be one life where I don't get killed for being a witch. I seem to be a master for getting caught. It is a bummer, isn't it? People are afraid of things they don't understand. It's hardwired into our DNA, apparently. Anything that's weird and different is dangerous in human beings' heads. So,
yeah, but you think people could override that a little bit with common sense, but
well, they can. They just choose not to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, water witchers are not. They're not afraid of water witchers. Just it's like Here's somebody
Well, it's
who's
true.
walking
It's
across
exactly
your
the same
land
thing.
with a bent stick, finding water because the stick points to the ground and they can tell how deep the water is, and they get paid $500 to find a well. Nobody's afraid of them because they need them.
I learned water witching from my father, and it actually works if you know how to do it right. And there was no esoteric teaching involved. It was just, oh, you cut a willow switch this way, and here's how you hold it.
That's because the water
and
the willow are attracted to each other. So Canary says, I am doing it with my Reiki master, so I know I'm good hands. Wanted to do for a while, but I needed to have some faith in someone first. Excellent.
Because all kinds of bad things can happen.
Potential things are there, and if you have someone who knows what they're doing, that is a huge relief.
Chances are nothing will, but yeah.
Well, I've done a few where it took everything that the person who was guiding me had to find out what was going on, because I was like, I'm not talking about that. Nope, not talking about that. Nope, not talking about that. It's pretty funny. But hey, you might learn something useful that you need to know in this life and put some things together. I've always, weirdly enough, wanted to be buried or spend 3 days in a cave in the dark with nobody around, because I have a lifetime somewhere else where that would help that life, but I can't seem to accomplish it in this one because there's too many people everywhere. Finding a cave
I'd be afraid you were going to hurt yourself or something if I wasn't in there with you.
Well, there's that, but I would, not move. If I was going to do that, I would be pretty clear not to move, because one of the things that happens if you have no senses, if you can't see anything, when people get lost in a cave and they lose their light, they start to see a light. The brain actually manufactures a phantom light, and then they think that their eyes have adjusted and that now they can see the light, and they start to follow it. Usually it takes them farther into a cave, and then they fall down and break a limb or get seriously injured or get more and more lost, and no one finds them until it's too late. So yeah, the brain is interesting that way. That's why sensory deprivation tanks are good.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Our brains aren't used to that total lack of light, but boy, in a cave, you get total lack of light.
Yeah, there's no seeing your nose. There's no nose. There's nothing. You can't see anything. It's very interesting. I've loved going into caves and doing that. Although that one I was a little bit worried about. We went into this one cave. He was trying to find an entrance into this tube. It was a nice big collapsed tube. It was like 30 feet or so, maybe. At least 20 for sure. And it was all filled with rubble. And Ian was trying to find the entrance into the other part of the cave where it wasn't all rubble. And he dove down a hole like that big around, just big enough for him to go down. So he went headfirst down this hole, and he's like going around. He was going in a circle around underneath me, because he would say, "Can you hear me?" And I'd say yes, and I'd hear his voice coming from all these various locations around the cave under me, and I suddenly thought that he was circling me and he was going to come out the hole he went down, which he did. But while I was sitting there, I'm looking at this giant rock that's just right over my head, and this tiny little pebble, no bigger than this, which is actually holding this rock up. It's like, it's so precarious, and I'm looking at that pebble, and I'm thinking, one of these days that's going to break, and that whole thing is going to come down. I hope it's not while in here, because
it wasn't really that precarious, because you couldn't like bump it and make it happen. I mean,
well, it was my thought processes.
It looked pretty precarious, yeah.
And I was like, and if it did, no one would find us for like 20,000 years or something, so we would be mysteriously vanished. But indeed, he did come out the hole that he went down, because suddenly I saw a light, and I turned off my light to see, and sure enough, his light was coming out of the hole he went down. And ironically, he was following someone else's trail, because he was following their chalk marks.
The same thing, yeah. So I thought they led somewhere. But
that's right. But then at that point, we were too tired to try again, so we gave up. Probably a good thing at that point.
Yeah, I think there was nothing there. I was just too rambunctious in my exploring, especially for the heat and everything.
Well, getting in the cave helped get us out of the heat. Canary says that's grim. Joey says, I heard 2 psychics on a podcast saying spirits of past loved ones on their left and higher spirits like angels on the left. Have you noticed that showing up? Well, my guardian spirit, when I was channeling, entered on my left. That's the only thing I know for sure. I have 2 guardian angels, and they're one on one side and one on the other, not just one side. So it may be a personal thing. But when I channel, it definitely comes in through the left. And I feel it as a physical sensation. The side of my head gets sort of cold and tingly, and it feels like it's opening up, and then she slides in, and then I move over this way into the right, and then she fills up the left and uses my voice and stuff.
It's actually a very interesting description how that, yeah. Since I don't channel, I've never experienced anything like that.
It certainly showed up that way with the mind mirror too, having the lower brainwave frequencies just on the left when I felt her near. So that was kind of interesting confirmation. I think that that kind of stuff is anecdotal and doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily presenting a universal truth that's going to be true for everyone. And sometimes people forget that. And so they think just because they experience it that way, then that must be the way it always is for everyone else. But we're all individuals, and we have different dominant sides. I'm right-handed, so my left side is my dominant brain. And you would think if it would be the recessive side, you know, to be receptive. That's one of those theories too, like left hand is receiving, right hand is projecting. And that's only if you're right-handed. If you're left-handed, it would be the opposite.
That's what they say, yeah.
You know, but these are assumptions that we make as people. We like to have things tidy when we can get them. You know, we want to have rules, things that we can follow. And like, it's always this way. But when it comes to life, although life is fairly organized in a lot of ways, people are very individual. And so what works for one person or is true for one person is not necessarily true for others.
That goes for communications with beings, too.
So Desiderotum says, watch out for Tommy knockers in those caves. Ask the Welch. Actually, Tommy knockers are there to warn you about a cave-in. So they're considered good spirits. If you hear a Tommy knocker, get the heck out. That's kind of... There's a haunted cave in Oregon where they did a show about that, and they talked about them. So they're here, too, not just in Wales. Canary says, I want to sleep with my Moldavite to see what happens, but I've been warned not to. Probably why I want to do it. Advice? Do you think something extreme would happen? Well, what's the worst thing that can happen? You can take it out from under your pillow and put it back on your altar.
You might have a bad dream or something.
I might have an intense dream. Or, like me, it might sneak out from under your pillow, and you might end up laying on it for the rest of the night and have a rock in an unfortunate and uncomfortable location. And my lapis did that the other night. I woke up in the morning, and there it was, right in the middle of the bed. I'm like, yeah, I probably slept on that, not in a good way. So, Shay says, I'm here. Hi, Shay, and happy birthday. Jonathan says, thanks for doing the body autonomy video. I already agreed with everything you said, but I'm sure there are people who desperately needed to hear your message. Sounds like a judge suspended the Texas law. Yes, but now they made it viable again, and they have to wait until Monday for it to go back to court. So another judge reversed the first judge. So here we go. People. Joey says, does it matter which wrist you wear a certain crystal bracelet, like Amethyst or Pyrite or Tourmaline? It depends on you. I have a bunch of different bracelets that I tend to wear when I go out, and I'm not sure why I do it this way. I wear the rejecting things bracelets on my left wrist and the bringing things in bracelets on my right. And that's, so on the left I'll do black spinel, obsidian, black tourmaline. I've started using a ruby matrix one on there occasionally. On the right I'd be doing like kyanite. I have labradorite that I started wearing on the right, jade. It's just personal preference.
It may make a minuscule bit of difference at the most, which wrist you wear it on. That's more likely only if you're focusing on that aspect of polarity where you're trying to purposely pull something in or you're trying to project it.
So Jonathan says YOLO. Oh, damn, YOLO doesn't work in this community. Just do it. Canary says, true, definitely had rocks in unfortunate locations. I bought a pillowcase that zips up. Oh, that's a good idea. And my crystals, put my crystals out there at night so that doesn't happen anymore. And I think I will. Well, if we took every person's advice who said don't do that, we'd never learn anything, right? I mean, how do they know? And how do you know that they know better than you, whether you should do it or not? Don't you think they should be saying, see how you feel, try it and see what happens, and if it's bad, don't do it again? I mean, that's what I would say. So Jessica says, I have a question that requires a bit more than the character limit allows for in a chat. Are you still accepting questions by email? I am, however, I don't think I can get to my email account while I'm doing a live broadcast. I could potentially get to it, so try it and send it. Siofra's Magic Alcove at gmail.com. Let me know when it's there, and then I'll go look at it. How's that? I'll just be looking funny because I'll be looking at my computer, but you won't be able to tell. Canary says, I think I will. And that's hilarious. Let's see. Get my fingers working right. Oh, I'm going the wrong way again. That's what I'm doing. Desert Rom says, they do like tobacco offerings, kind of gnome-like. They whistle, too. Well, that depends, again, on the spirit. I got where I am now by not listening to people. They say don't do that. Oh, no, that's okay. I just meant for later.
On the question.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to worry about it right now.
Thank you. Yes, you can send it to me later. Jonathan says, have you worked with Jasper? I think there's a lot in the stream where I found the Holy Stone. Jasper, you're asking me? Okay, yes. That polychrome is a type of jasper, and I work with bloodstone, which is a type of jasper. I have several different kinds of jasper that I work with. So, but I don't have a jasper bracelet at the moment, so I'm not using it for, like, protecting myself when I'm out in the grocery store, having to avoid people and their energy so I don't, be overwhelmed being an empath and all that.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with Jasper myself. I haven't worked with it much. I'd think it'd be pretty earthy, but...
Well, it depends. The invisibility ring is made from jasper.
It is?
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was...
Bloodstone, which is jasper. It's a form of jasper. Green and red.
Okay.
Yeah. Desiree says, I can't seem to get a Welsh flag on the chat. Well, maybe it's one of those things that they don't allow. Too many characters.
I don't know. I think they ought to put a Hogwarts logo or something for your flag.
A Hogwarts logo so people can declare their houses.
Yeah.
What house are you from? Are you Slytherin or the others? There's so many.
Anyway, okay.
Yeah, anyway. Yeah, that polychrome is the one that helps me to tell the difference between my different bodies. So it separates my physical, mental, astral, and spirit bodies. And I can travel in between them fairly easily with that stone. So that's not one I tend to do at night. Last night I was playing around with my aura and, looking at it. And it's kind of interesting because I got a really deep purple in between my fingers. It's like the green is in one part and then the deep purple is in another. And I find that kind of fascinating to look at, the colors. So far, I'm not seeing them on other people so much. I should practice on you. Get you in a dim room before I go to bed. See if I can see your aura and what I can see on it.
Bloodstone is a cryptocrystal, a mixture of quartz that occurs mostly as jasper or sometimes as chalcedony.
Chalcedony, yeah, chalcedony.
Plastic bloodstone is opaque green jasper, so there you go, with red inclusions of hematite.
Is that what that is? Oh, that's, okay, hematite is the red?
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yep. So, okay, cool. I didn't realize it was Jasper.
And the ancients called it heliotrope.
Right.
Which is where our confusion came in a lot, because
words signal sun turning, apparently, according to this.
And of course I made the heliotrope oil, which we haven't put on the Jasper Bloodstone invisibility ring yet. But it's cooking. It's getting nice and dark in there. Canary says, my aura seems to be dark purple when I did it in the mirror. Do you know what that indicates? Dark purple is basically Akasha color, so I don't know if it indicates anything other than that, connection to spirit. Desert Rom says, my great-grandfather worked in mines in West Virginia, and he had some warnings from the Tommyknockers. Yeah, I think that miners actually appreciate them. Manko says, do you receive any information from dragons? No, not at the moment. I have met a few here and there and seen a few here and there, but we're not exchanging information at this point. Or they're just sort of allies. If I needed one would come, I'm sure. Considering that land guardian flying into the house, that'd be something else if one of those two-headed giant serpent dragon thingies came into our house. That probably would have scared that guy. He probably would have left. So maybe I should have a chat with that one. It's out in that direction somewhere. I like shungite. It's a stone, shungite. Isn't that? No, that's something else. Taylor says, what situation would need a dragon? Well, it'd be a protective thing if my life was in danger. I suspect that the ally that I made in the woods that day that was looking for a warrior spirit, I've met two of them directly, one local and one down in Monterey, and I've felt one here in our area. The other local one is north of us, so I guess that's sort of local, but not completely. Taylor says, I see. TM says, how to work with ancestors when they don't know who they were? I have no idea. Doing a meditation to try and tune into your own DNA, race memory, family memory kind of thing. Might give you some clues. I don't work with my ancestors in particular, so I'm not a good one for that.
Yeah, I don't either. Maybe I ought to, since one of mine was a full-blood Native American.
Well, that doesn't mean he actually knew anything, but maybe.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know that he did. I think he was just average.
So Jonathan says, thanks for the Jasper advice. Invisibility ring sounds interesting. It's a brownish red color with gray streaks in this stream. Cool. Carrie says that Taylor, every situation literally needs a dragon.
Yes, absolutely. I agree.
I don't know about that. We're tasty.
Yeah,
and
I don't know.
we're crunchy and go good with ketchup. I mean.
I want a Dallas dragon. Look at all his tendrils and very flowy.
Well, all the ones I've seen have been Chinese, Japanese type of dragons. None of them have had wings, except for the one in my meditation when I went to the moon on the back of a green dragon. So that was fun. I liked him. He liked me. It was good.
Cool.
He had a nice back. He's nice and small, good size for me because, I'm small. Even when I'm out of my body and in my own mind, I'm still small. Canary says, I don't have any special desire to work with ancestors. No offense if any of my guides happen to be one. That's always a good call. And you never know. Mia Amersu says, hi, Shifrani, and hi, Mia.
Hello.
How you doing? Yeah, so, you just never know where these conversations are going to end up. I like working with the rocks. I think the rock, it's a good way that I have for quieting my mind if I really need to get my mind still. If I can find a large boulder somewhere and try and tune into it and read it, then my mind immediately gets quiet because their thoughts are very slow. There's lots of spaces in between their thoughts, so generally speaking, I end up finding them when they're being quiet because, they are around for so long. So, Monko says they have codes. Mia says, today the flame of my candle fluttered like crazy while there was no wind. What do you think it could be? A bad wick? A spirit? Energy? There's any number of possibilities.
Well, a lot of times it's when it's burned down enough that there's enough wax built up on the sides that it starts to put it out, and then it doesn't quite want to go out, and it'll start out. It goes.
Yeah, sometimes candles will just do that.
It'll start
sputtering.
Start flashing even when it gets to the right spot. Like bright and then dim, bright and dim, bright and dim.
So Canary says that, Taylor, I can think of a situation that wouldn't be improved with a dragon present. Taylor says, I personally like Tiger's Eye. Yes, so do I. We just recently made a protective bracelet for my granddaughter out of Tiger's Eye. Tiger's Eye is like one of those traditional stones that's really good for like blocking negative energy and thoughts from others.
Sending it back, blocking it.
Yeah. They used to use it to protect from the evil eye. That'd be one of the things it was for. And certainly labradorite is traditionally like that too, except on mostly spirit level, I think.
You'll have to see what spirit takes the form of a dragon when you evoke it.
That could kind of be uncomfortable inside of a small room. Unless it's a mini dragon.
Might be that. Yeah.
Like that miniature saber-toothed tiger that you saw.
That's right, he was only about that big.
Yeah, he was little. He was only like that big. I can handle a dragon that size in here. That'd be okay.
Like I was seeing him from way up in the air.
I actually have a elemental I built that's in the shape of a dragon with wings. Taylor says, I personally, I'm going to start throwing Tiger Eye at people. Good. Didn't think I'd like Tiger's Eye, but I wear it every day for protection and haven't found anything that works as well. Of course, this is a piece of Tiger's Eye right here, so I use it pretty much every day. This is green Tiger's Eye.
I like that. Like, I reject you. Thump, the big piece of Tiger's Eye.
Yes.
Those little round spears, that would
Yep.
hurt.
I got one of those too.
Those are cool. Yeah.
I like those. Jonathan says, I was researching local magic and tradition this week. It was reaffirmed that ancestors are critically important in African spirituality. When they don't know, they honor the first man, Unkuluku, or something like that. Forgive me if I said that wrong. Taylor says, sounds expensive at Canary. Well, get some cheap Tiger's Eye. I got some, like, they're little chunks. I think I only paid like a couple of dollars for like a quarter of a pound of those things. So you can get some inexpensive Tiger Eye, and it's good for throwing. It's sort of pointy too, so, it's not a round one. It's a stick.
So a lot of the ancestor worship, you're looking at about a little bit different thing because it's in their traditions, and they have had previous shamans or powerful ancestors in their traditions that they're trying to get a hold of. My dad was not powerful. He was a miner. My mother was crazy. Basically, I have no ancestors that I actually want to get in touch with, like I say, except maybe the Native American guy, but I don't know much about him. He was a few generations back.
So Canary says that Taylor might get people to take their negative energy and leave. I'm going to make little spears with Tiger Eye and throw it at people and say, I regret you now.
But a slingshot would work good for that. What?
Oh!
Sorry. Not espousing violence. Just a
Canary
joke.
says that Taylor, I can get it for about 3 pounds. If it works, it works. So Jonathan thought that was pretty funny. Practice my aim. Yeah. If it works, it works.
Oh, hey. Sometimes you just wish you had something to throw at them. Speaking for myself.
Canary says that's a good way to deal with having to turn down people's offers that I keep regretting. Yeah, sometimes you don't know what they're actually offering. They say they're offering one thing, and then you say sure, and then you end up with something completely different, and it's just not what you were hoping for to deal with. Jonathan says, Ian, it's not the ancestors are great, it's that they are fickle and meddlesome, so rather keep them happy. Ah, I see.
Okay.
They're worried that they're going to mess with their lives in this current time if they don't give them their due. I'm thinking that's what you mean by that.
Right. Well, I definitely have one that would mess with me if she could.
Yes, the mother who's dead. Ah, unfortunate. But yeah. So yeah, it just depends. Depends on what you're doing.
Well, and again, I'm not all that familiar with those traditions, just what I've learned through reading mostly.
Well, I think most of my ancestors are probably scared of me at this point. They probably don't want to have anything to do with me anyway. Jonathan says, that's it, 100%. All right. So I guess that it helps. If yeah. I think with me it's different because I remember so many different past lives, and which set of ancestors should I deal with? I mean,
yeah, that's a whole other thing.
I guess the body I'm in currently,
well,
what it came with,
like
but
the lineage, like passed
right.
down between whatever types of shamans, voodoo practitioners.
Canary says, I definitely have a few that would mess with me, but I ain't baking in any cake. Shay says, good thing that your ancestors are scared of you. Well,
Yep.
Yep, I think it's a good thing too. So yeah, what the heck. Well, it looks like I've been talking for an hour and a half at this point, even though it's only 3 minutes to 3:30. So I guess it's time for us to say goodbye to you all lovely people, and I look forward to the email question when it comes in, and see if I can answer it.
Yes, and thank you all for attending.
It's always okay to send us an email question and stuff like that. Shay says, do you two have boundaries in place to keep away some of the meddlesome ones? They just don't come around. Joey says, time flies when you're having fun. It's getting close to that time. Thank you, Siofra and Ian, for all the love and wisdom. You're welcome. Jonathan says, they don't want cake. They want goat and cattle sacrifices.
Sounds about right.
They're African. Of course they would want that. Enjoy the chat, Taylor says. And love you guys, says Violet. And goodbye, everyone. And thank you, says Mia. Jessica says, it was wonderful chatting with you today. I'll be sending that email tonight, hopefully. Philippa says, thank you very much. Everyone says, thank you. Thank you, guys. We love you all, and we enjoy the questions. It keeps us on our toes. And oh, wait, because Ian is typing something. Oh, there you go. Goodbye. Bye, guys.